Hey everyone, Dave here with another Philly Tech Connect podcast. Today I'm speaking with Denzel Giraldo. Denzel, new member of our community, just recently met him at a startup pitch event. He came to last week. Great guy. He's a founder and CEO of two software companies. One's like a software consulting and recruiting company called inwild.com, and another is a SaaS app for barbershops to help them manage their commissions and daily operations. So we're going to be talking today about all things tech, about hiring, recruiting dev talent, about how do you kind of plan to scale your applications, how you should structure your teams. Anything else I can kind of pick out of this guy's brain? Denzel, how you doing, man?
Doing absolutely amazing. Thank God. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast. Thank you very much, Dave.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you coming out and coming out last week and then already being on the podcast and just kind of being an engaged member of the community. It's tell me a little bit about your journey. What brought you to Philadelphia from Dominican Republic and just kind of the multiple software companies that you're running.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I come from the Dominican Republic, and growing up over there, it was such a pleasurable experience. Coming from a humble beginnings, it taught me a sense of gratitude and to always be grateful for every day and the things and the blessings that we get every day. And yeah, the way that I got into software, it was very interesting. I found myself being 11 years old one day, and I was playing this game. I'm not gonna disclose the name of the game, but they had this game that you had to pay to be able to get more benefits and stuff. And coming from the Dominican Republic, $1 over there is like 50 pesos, 59 pesos, and it's like it's a lot of money, especially for 11 years old. So back then, I was thinking, hmm, if I don't have money to be able to afford anything in this game, how would I be able to do it? So I went on a journey to investigate on how to create video games and stuff like that. And then I found programming. And I just, the first moment I got on it, it was like I just fell in love with it. And from that moment onwards, I was just coding every single day, improving on my skill sets and making sure that I am as proficient as I can. And when I was growing up and I saw that my family didn't have as many resources, it was such an inspiration that I saw myself being 12 years old, 13 years old. And I was like, you know what? I developed these skills. I've been 2 years on it so far. And I was like, let me see if I can make some money out of this to help my family push forward. And from there, I started working online with different companies, with people that were in college. I was doing their homeworks, and it was such a very pleasurable experience being able to work as an engineer at 13 years old. And from there, I was like, you know, this is what is going to bring the future for me, for my family, and for the legacy that I wanted to to build. Because since I was 12 and seeing different companies, different video games companies, it was like, you know what? One day I'm going to open my own company, and that is going to be my dream. And thank God I was able to fulfill that promise, and we're here on it and loving every single second of the game. I currently run two software companies. One is invaluable.com, which is a software consulting and recruiting company. And one is Perseni, which is a barbershop software as a service, B2B service that offers barbershop owners the ability to manage their commissions and the day-to-day operations in real time. And not only that, but they can be outside of the barbershop and all the time be able to see how their barbershop is performing and how their barbers are performing, which is something that before they didn't have the opportunity to do so because they had to count every single they have this system which they call tickets that they write down like the price of the client and the type of haircut that they did. And it was such a tedious process for them to count every single one of those tickets every day at the end of the day, and at the end of the week calculate the percentage to know how much they're going to pay the barbershop owners, the barbers in the barbershop. And that was when the idea came into my mind. I was like, you know what? I can automate this process. This is this is something that they do not need to be doing. And it's like they're wasting 1, 2 hours a day, depending on how busy the day was, to make sure that they count things, that they calculate commissions correctly, and they can just invest that time into doing more haircuts or focusing on growing the barbershop into the next level instead of just having to be over there in the daily operations of the business. And it brings me so much inspiration and so much gratitude to be able to impact people's life that way, both in while my software as a service, my software consulting service company and recruiting and presenting, we're creating great impact. For example, at Inwall, we're working with big brands such as Axel Informatics, Thrizer, and we have also collaborated with companies such as the NIH. And it is very pleasurable to be able to, because we have developed this system that is a recruiting system that we apply to each one of the engineers that we hire at the company, that assures us that we're hiring a great talent engineer, very passionate about what they're doing, and that they have potential for the future for growth, and currently right now as well. And yeah,
Yeah, man,
it's
let's dive into that. This is great. I there's a couple of things I already have in mind I want to talk about, but I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So let's start for just a second about the Dominican Republic and your experience there. The DR isn't really known for, to my knowledge, for producing a lot of engineering talent. I mean, we think of countries like India, you think of Eastern Europe, and I don't know if I've ever, other than you, met like a programmer from the Dominican Republic. So, what's the ecosystem like there? Like, were you mostly self-taught, or what were the resources that are available to learning programming from where you're from?
Yes. So one of the blessings that we have in today's world is that we have the internet. And we do not need to go to college or do this and that to be able to learn a new skill. And we can just Google it, and all of the information is already over there. Things that people pay millions of dollars or thousands of dollars is like available to you over there. You just have to do some thorough research and don't give up and just focus on it. So yeah, over there in the Dominican Republic, believe it or not, there are so much incredible talent, and the people that are extremely talented and extremely passionate about it, about what they do. And not only that, but their work ethics, they're extremely great. They have this drive and this motivation to themselves that they always want to push forward. They always want a new vision. They always want to do something new. And that's something that in programmers, it really drives your career really very, very forward. And I really admire a lot of developers from the Dominican Republic. We have in my company developers in the USA and the Dominican Republic, and the ones that work with us from the Dominican Republic, I admire them so much. And that's that's one of the cultures of my team. Every time we make a hire, we ask ourselves, do I admire this person? And also, I love, and I cannot describe even how much I love just to hire people that intimidate me with how capable they are with the skill sets. And some leaders, sometimes they don't want to hire people that intimidate them, because they don't want to feel like in the lower end of things. But it's the other way around. You don't want to be the bottleneck of your business. You want your talent and the people in your company to grow the company, not for you to just be the only brain in the operation. And that's why we have that as part of our values of the companies.
That's great, man. I want to dive into more about, identifying talent, but before I kind of get to that point, I want to hear a little bit about the software product. It's a cool niche, barbershops. It's, a lot of times everyone's looking into what I'll call like the really sexy kind of, industries. But there are so many underserved and neglected industries, and I think barbershops maybe one of them, and that may be something that you stumbled onto. How did you learn about the problems that the owners were having, and that they were spending this time with the manual calculation of the work?
Yes. So back when I got here in the United States for like 1 to 2 years, when I was 15 years old, I was working as a barber. And while I was working as a barber in my free time, I was freelancing on my computer, making sure that I stay up to date with my programming skills. And I always had my vision of moving forward and into my career as having software companies and growing my companies. So I saw that as a first step. And then I just saw that problem and I was like, this is something that I can indeed solve. And at 15 years old, it came to me the idea that I'm going to build this product and I'm going to bootstrap it to revolutionize the barbershop industry. Because as you know, and you mentioned it yourself, but the barbershop industry in the tech environment is really neglected. Not a lot of people pay attention to it. And that was something that I really identified as well, and that caught my attention, and that it's something that can be really improved because as you know that most of the barbershops nowadays they're still doing day-to-day operations written down by paper manually, and just having a software that automates all of that process for you, it's like a pain reliever. Because before, for example, they had the stress that they had to do all of these manual process at the end of the day, but they no longer have to do that, and they can just go home and have a nice drink and relax and be by themselves and their families, and just enjoy the rest of the day.
Yeah, I mean, you're touching on all the right points that, when you hear about, software products and finding a pain in the market and saving them time so that they can, just enjoy themselves or do other things to grow their business. It makes perfect sense, and it's always interesting, where people get this industry knowledge from. The fact that you actually were in the industry for a year or two is really unique because I suspect that not a lot of people have a crossover between Barbary and software development, right? That's not a common for one person to have both experiences. So that's a really unique opportunity for you to service that market. And fortunately, I also noticed you have a great haircut. You have a great face. Like it's great that you get to carry some of those skills with you while you're programming now too. Let's talk about hiring, developers. This is a real common pain point for entrepreneurs. There's a lot of people with an idea, a vision. Maybe they're good at marketing, sales, or operations, but they're not necessarily technical people. They need to find a CTO, or maybe they're not necessarily ready to maybe give up half their company or whatever is necessary. They just want to hire a developer. You mentioned things like, finding people that you admire and people that, impress you with their tech skills. What are some of the processes and approaches you take to finding good developer talent?
A couple of the tips that I always share with people, it's the ones that I mainly started with. It's that so founders, especially non-technical founders, don't know how to code or don't know how to identify great programmers, and that's sometimes an issue. Something very important if you're in that position is to identify someone that you know that it's relatively technical, very technical, or just hire somebody to be able to do that for you, to be able to screen the software engineer and make sure that they have the right talent, because these are some of the issues that happen to startup whenever they don't find the right CT or the right talent for the business. They start the product, okay, everything's great for the first 1 to 2 years. Once the startup bootstraps and goes to the sky, it's like the product cannot keep up with the market because it's so slow, it has so many issues, and that's something that you really have to test at the beginning when you're looking for talent. You want to look for somebody that is experienced enough and have the background record of building applications and architecture for that application that is going to be sustainable for the future. Because at the beginning, it might not sound like a big of a deal. Oh, okay, we can just build this software. It doesn't matter. We have the MVP, whatever. But over time, it's like the product needs to be taken care of, and that taken care of should have been done from the beginning of things, because maybe you structured the database on the wrong manner that affected the future features that you're going to build in the future. Maybe you just didn't structure the server's architecture in the right way to be able to scale the service horizontally or vertically, to be able to scale for millions of users in the future. And that's some of the scenarios that happen when you don't hire, for example, the right CTO or the right software engineer. And one of the main points that I always like to advise new founders and people that are hiring for software engineers: get a person that's relatively technical, that can identify someone that's good or not with technical skills. As far as coding algorithm questions, don't give this intermediate, or very hard coding algorithm questions, because most of the talent that are really good at coding, they're not really focused on that. They're focused on architecture. They're focused on the organization, the structure of an application. So you just have to test a basic coding algorithm question to make sure that that talent, it's capable of doing some problem solving, identifying an issue, and coming up with different scenarios to solve that issue. And the perfect way to do that coding algorithm question is to keep it short. Because, for example, you can just do a 10-minute coding algorithm question, very easy, but the 10 minutes, it's what is the hard part, because in that 10 minutes you will see if that developer is able to handle pressure. You will see if that person is able to problem solve while they're also going through pressure, and while of the pressure of going through an interview, and while they'll also have to solve it in a very quick manner. So that is something really important that you have in a talent, because when you are a startup, you're going to come up with so many problems, and you want a person that is able to solve problems right away in that timely manner. And another one of the tips that I always recommend as well is that you ask them about the most complex problem that they ever solved. And if they are really talented and they are really passionate about it, you will see it. You will see automatically how their eyes are going to get bright, and they're going to give you so many details about that problem that they solved. Because when they're really involved in coding that way, bless you. When they're really involved in coding that way, it's like talking about something that they're a problem that they really struggle with. It's really passionate for them because they never had that opportunity to explain it to someone. So you taking the adventure to ask them that question, they're going to be so excited to explain to you more forward in details about that. And last one, but not least, is that, and this is when you're hiring for senior software engineers or a CTO, is to also include a design a design structure question. For example, you give them a diagram application, for example, like I'm going to give it to you right now. It's calidraw.com or draw.io. And those are platforms that allows you to diagram an application. And over there, they're going to be able to, you ask them, for example, to structure a out system for an application from the client perspective to the server, how is it supposed to work, and how the client is going to authenticate the process. And once with that question, you will be able to see how far and deep their knowledge goes as far as how to structure an application and how to make sure that it scales. If they just come up with a simple solution that might not be able to scale because you cannot scale, for example, the out service, that might not be the software engineer that you want for that position, or the CTO. But if they come up with a system that, for example, they have, and I'm going to go a little bit technical here.
Sure.
They
Yeah.
have, for example, JWT tokens that you can just process through different servers, and they're able to decrypt that token to make sure that that token is valid across different services, and that they don't depend across each other. You know that you have a possibly great engineer in there because he's structuring things in a way that can possibly and can most probably scale up in the future without an issue.
Yeah, man, those are awesome tips. So many things that you just mentioned there. I want to make sure that I highlight them because these are the important things that people need to understand. I've been through them myself as well as someone who's run a SaaS product before, but doesn't really have a technical background. It's amazing how quickly, the problem of scalability comes up. It is not an issue where it's just like until you're Amazon, you don't really need to worry about it. But even when you start to have just, some active users, if things aren't structured right, if you haven't kind of planned for the future, you will start to see like problems, slowdowns, errors will pop up as a result. And everything that you identified about giving these type of architectural and structural problems for an engineer to answer, as well as the expectation that if they're really passionate about the work that they do, that they're going to have a complex problem to be able to speak about in depth. People, if you ask anybody about something they're really interested or excited about, they'll talk your ear off, and you kind of expect the same thing in that scenario.
Yeah.
So I know exactly where you're going with that. And then lastly, honestly, the important one of the most important things that you mentioned, which is bringing somebody in as like kind of a consultant who has the technical knowledge to be able to ask these questions and interpret the answers. They don't necessarily need to be an official member of the team or anything like that, but just someone in your network or a friend that can kind of have this chat with someone. And I think anybody that knows their stuff, like for example, if you talk to the guy for probably 5 or 10 minutes, you could say, this person is the real deal, or this person is a clown or something. You know what I mean? So it doesn't take too long for people that know what they're talking about to understand if they're speaking common language with somebody else. So hey, this was a great talk, a great addition to the podcast. People that want to learn more about you and the companies that you're working on, where should they go?
Yes, absolutely. And it's really interesting that you mentioned that finding someone that is really experienced on development. You might not have someone close to your network, but and that is one of the reasons why great companies such as the Axon Informatics, as I previously mentioned, work with us, because they know we have the technical capability to identify the talents, and we provide them talent, expert and very talented talent, and they have continued to work with us among years, and they have not dropped with us, and the relationship is still going to move forward, because every single talent that we provide to their company, it's high quality, and they even put them to a last screening section to make sure that the talent aligns with the vision and the culture of the company, because culture as well is really important. You can have the greatest talent in the world, but if they don't match with the culture of your company, it's just not gonna be a great fit. But yeah, people can reach out to me through LinkedIn, Denzel Giraldo, Denzel Giraldo, Giraldo, and through Instagram as well. It's the same thing, Denzel Giraldo. You guys can find me, and I'll be happy to connect and be able to help in anything that I can help with.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks for being a member of the community. You can also reach out to Denzel on our Slack group and hope to see you at more events.
I hope to see you in more events, Dave, as well. Thank you very much for having me in the podcast. God bless you.